Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Hey, I love goofing around as much as anybody, but not when it comes to your retirement.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, best-selling author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
They were called the Goofers, 5 Italian musicians coming out of Louis Prima's band back in the early 1950s. Featured on The Ed Sullivan Show on numerous occasions, as well as a regular act in Vegas, the Goofers developed at that time a one-of-a-kind novelty act, playing their instruments while on pogo sticks, standing on their instruments, or hanging upside down from a trapeze. They were particularly good musicians with a goofy act. So why did they act goofy? Because they were entertainers. Oh, speaking of the Goofers, their leader was trumpet player by the name of Frank Nichols, who ended up in the 1970s landing in Lexington, Kentucky, playing nightly at the iconic Campbell House Inn there in Lexington. His dance band during that period was called Frank Nichols and the Coins. I should know that because in the late 70s, my brother Marty the drummer and his good friend keyboardist and singer Mark Davis joined the Frank Nichols group. Funny, thinking about that period of time, Marty tells me that before joining Frank Nichols and the Coins, he and Mark had a regular gig at another hotel on the north side of Lexington. You can tell it's the 70s by those cool outfits that Mark and Marty have on. And they played in this little restaurant/lounge, trying to entertain crowds ranging in attendance from about 5 to 15 people, kind of like this scene with Bill Murray. Da, da, da. So whether it's the Goofers, Mark and Marty, or yours truly goofing around and trying to entertain my 2 grandkids, there's nothing wrong with goofing around and having fun, except when it comes to your money and more specifically your retirement. And that's the topic of today and next week's show on the Worry-Free Retirement. Well, welcome folks to the Worry-Free Retirement, and 10,000 people is what we're talking about. 10,000 people that each and every day turn 65. And one of the goofiest and scariest things happening in the financial world today is this: advisors and folks I'll refer to as financial entertainers coming out of the woodwork and claiming to be retirement specialists. Now, why are they coming at you from all angles? Well, because they know you've got money and they know you need advice. But unlike the Goofers, who are there for simple fun and entertainment, planning best to use and enjoy your money and make it last as long as you do is no laughing matter. And let's face it, you've worked hard to save all this money for retirement, and now you're expected to blindly accept the advice of someone else who may or may not know what they're talking about, especially when it comes to the field of retirement planning. And yes, in many cases, all I see from unsuspecting savers looking for help is plain old goofiness coming out of the financial world. And it's not just random insurance agents. There could be dinner seminar salesmen, money managers, all of these people getting into the act who are wanting to offer retirement planning advice. And the most interesting group of all who's starting to venture into the fray are certified public accountants, or CPAs. That's right, they're also beginning to offer retirement planning advice. In fact, this article says that the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants estimates that 25% of its 394,000 members are beginning to offer financial planning services. Now, that translates to about 114,000 accountants ready to recommend additional services either directly or by referring you to an advisory firm within their firm. Now, there's nothing wrong with this, folks, but here's the point. I meet hundreds and hundreds of people each year, and in most cases, financial folks who act like they know what they're talking about when it comes to retirement planning, in many cases, I found out, do not. In fact, many do not have the proper credentials, they don't have the proper licensing, and particularly, they don't have any experience in providing retirement planning advice, period. So, when I return, I'm going to show you right out of the gate the most important question to ask any financial advisor, or for that matter, any financial entertainer giving you advice. Stay tuned. I'm Tony Walker. I'll be right back. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a pension buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today. Let's imagine that you're 60 years of age in great health, still working, and you decide to go see your family physician for a routine checkup. Surprisingly, your doctor notices something out of whack with your heart and refers you to a heart specialist. Now, after further tests with the heart specialist, they tell you that you might need quadruple bypass, and since this is something you don't want to goof around with, they refer you to a well-known and very experienced heart surgeon who has performed thousands of these same procedures and someone who can verify that they are properly licensed and credentialed to handle such a life-changing procedure. Knowing the experience of this surgeon before going into heart surgery, how confident would you be? Well, since the one who referred you to the heart surgeon is a specialist, and seeing as though this complete stranger who will be cutting you open has done thousands of these procedures, let's assume you'd be a little more worry-free about the procedure. Sadly, when it comes to your money and the decision on how best to manage it in retirement, the same procedure of finding a retirement specialist, one who is properly licensed, credentialed, and experienced, is never discussed by most advisors nor their financial patients. Why? Because in my humble opinion, most people, whether they be advisors or financial entertainers on radio, TV, and the internet, do not really understand the subject they're even talking about, and that's retirement planning. Remember, folks, 10,000 people turning 65 each and every day, all loaded up with money stockpiled in their 401k plans, and this is a relatively new phenomenon. You know, if we go back in the late 70s when Mark and Marty were courageously sporting leisure suits, my granddad retired from Bell South. He didn't need a retirement specialist because he didn't have money to invest. He relied on his company-provided pension plan or mailbox money. And since people back then didn't spend more than they had coming in, there was no need to have a retirement planning specialist. But that was then, and this is now. So here's the important question to ask before ever taking advice from anybody. Here's the question you ask: what is this person's credentials? Well, let's take a look at mine. Now, I can't speak for other folks. You'll have to ask them yourself. But let's go over the credentials of Tony Walker. Now, by the way, years ago, before I put this together, an elderly gentleman who was thinking of working with us came to the office and he sat down and he said, "Tell me about your background a little bit." And I started talking about family and all that. And he said, "Son," kind of interrupted me. He said, "No, your background. What are your credentials?" And I said, "Oh, well, that's easy. I mean, I don't mean to brag, but here I go." And he interrupted me. He said, "Son, it ain't bragging if you can back it up." I like that. So let's kind of go through exactly who Tony Walker is, my credentials, my experience, and why you need to be thinking through these same questions whenever you're getting financial advice, whether it's a financial advisor or financial entertainer. Let's start with the first thing. There's a lot of people wanting to give you advice. They're happy to give you advice, and what I would say is, are you going to have access to meet with the owner of the company? You know, one of the most common things I see, the owner of the company gets them in the door and they never see them again. Folks, if you would like to meet with me, you're going to meet with me, whether it's Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington. But here's the best part. if you become inclined and you want to meet with me, you just call the office and tell them you want to meet with Tony. I am completely accessible to my clients. The reason I have so many staff folks is so I can meet with people in person. I want to share my knowledge and experience with them. Number two, how many appointments have these people actually had in person? Now, I'm not talking about taking phone calls or questions on the internet. I have personally, and I can document this, met in person with over 15,000 people over the last 36 years. I have a lot of experience. Here's a good one. First of all, most people don't even have a written game plan. Most people don't even provide written game plans. You know how many I've provided over the years? I've overseen 4,000 written game plans. Just like that surgeon, I've been in the surgery room a lot, and although I've not seen everything out there under the sun, I've seen a lot. Let's look at the next thing. What if you want to have Social Security analyzed? Maybe you're 61 or 62. Had a lady in yesterday. Her husband is deceased and she's trying to decide whether to draw on his Social Security or take her own. Well, we can figure that out and at no cost. That's an example of Social Security. What about tax and fee analysis? Do you really know what people are charging you to manage your money? Do you even know how to look into the fees and how to structure those and what the expense ratios are plus the fees? Well, we do. We have somebody on staff full-time at no cost. We'll analyze your current statements to see what the fees are. And then we get into tax planning. You know, a lot of people say, well, when do I take my RMD? And where's the best place to take it? And should I do a Roth conversion? And unfortunately, a lot of people just blindly decide to do a Roth conversion or blindly take money out of all their accounts when they have a RMD situation. Well, we have somebody on staff full-time that helps you make those tax decisions, and at no charge to clients. What about this? Free what-if scenarios. You know, during the recent coronavirus, there was about a 4-week period of time where I couldn't see people, and it was awful. Folks, you know what I love doing? I love sitting down with people and them asking me, Tony, what if I could retire now? Or Tony, what if I could take some money and give it to my kids or travel? What if, Tony, can I do? You know how many scenarios I've seen over the year? Lots. And I love helping people think through things that might be possible so they can use and enjoy their money while they still can. Free estate planning guidance and assistance. We have a wonderful tool now where we will sit down, we're not attorneys, but we can sit down with a legal firm, act as the scribe, notarize everything, and for a very, very competitive price, get all of your estate documents in order. Now, why would you want to do that? So you can have everything under one roof. Folks, as you get into retirement, this is not a one-shot deal. The retirement planning specialist you choose better know everything there is to know from cradle to grave, and that includes estate planning. What about investment management fees? Some of the lowest in the industry. We put our money with Charles Schwab as our custodian. The annual fee is a whopping 0.8%. So if you had $100,000 and we put it with our Charles Schwab platform, that means we're going to charge about $800 a year to manage it. That includes all of the selections of everything, all the reallocations, getting you the money, all the service, access to 3 fiduciaries anytime you want, and no need to worry about it. We're going to make sure that that money is invested the way you want us to invest it. We have 5 different portfolios. That's a great bargain compared to most people charging twice that amount in fees. Annuities. I know it. We're known for annuities around the country, but if you're going to buy an annuity, and they're getting more and more popular, why wouldn't you want to buy an annuity for somebody who's personally sold over $400 million of annuity premiums? Folks, I know these products very, very well. And speaking of annuities, oh my gosh, folks, there are so many different companies now, many different types of products. Same thing, we have someone on staff full-time that will analyze the annuities that we're using and make sure we have the most competitive products and the annuity that's right for you. So if you have an old annuity, maybe thinking about buying an annuity, by the time this show airs, I know we're recording this show on June 16th, 2020. By the time it airs, maybe the dinner seminars are back in full speed. Well, I know they're going to be trying to pitch annuities. Before you ever purchase an annuity, get a second opinion from us on that annuity. Next, the ratio of full-time service experts to fiduciaries is 4-to-1. We have 12 full-time staff that are here to serve you and 3 full-time fiduciaries. Folks, not many people can boast of that. Why do I have so much staff? It's because we want to service what we sell. It's easy to sell you something and people make commissions or they get their recurring fees, but it's another thing to provide recurring service. And at Tony Walker Financial, we're going to commit to being there with you for the long term. And then finally, here's the thing I'm realizing, and this is an intangible that's playing out, and I'm seeing this time and time again. And this is a real important thing. It's called having everything under one roof. Let's think about this. You and your spouse are married, you've been working all your life, you're in your late 60s. There's going to be a period of time, more than likely, sooner than you think, where one of you either becomes ill, gets in poor health, or passes away. And the question is, why in the world wouldn't you want to have everything under one roof? The advantage of that is when something happens, not if, when something happens to the one spouse, the other spouse, and even, yes, your kids, have the same game plan. There's no reason to make any changes. There's not a bunch of additional costs to settle the estate. Everything smoothly gets transferred to your spouse and or the next generation. So ask yourself this question again. What credentials do these people have? Well, when I come back, I'm going to give you a quick scenario of one of the goofiest answers I've heard in a long time, and it comes from one of those financial entertainers. You're watching the Worry-Free Retirement. I'll be right back. You stay tuned. Who can you trust? It's one of the most important decisions you'll have to make. Question is, are you ready? Well, we're here to help at Tony Walker Financial. You know, we care more about you than we do your money, and we have over 2,000 happy clients and an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau to prove it. Rolling over a 401k, confused about Social Security, maybe you're afraid of running out of money. Learn how to use and enjoy and protect your hard-earned money. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement, and in case you're just joining us, our theme is how to enjoy goofy entertainers and at the same time, though, avoid goofy advice when it comes to your money. Our Tony in the Trenches question was not actually a question to Tony, but one I saw on the internet that was addressed to what I call a financial entertainer, one of those folks that's on radio and TV constantly answering questions about financial things. So let's take a look. It says, my wife and I are 60 years of age, and we want to know if we should purchase long-term care insurance. Now let me get something straight. First of all, we at Tony Walker Financial, we are licensed to sell long-term care insurance, and we do. We have the credentials to sell it, the licensing. But I got to look at this particular answer from this particular financial entertainer to this, and I was a little shocked. Let me paraphrase what the financial entertainer responded to with this question. Rather than saying what he should have said, it all depends, this particular person said, well, this is interesting. Considering you could be in a nursing home for up to 20 years, I don't know who's been in a nursing home that long, you could wipe out your life savings. Now, what was interesting about this response from this particular financial entertainer is I know this person is constantly telling people that in retirement you won't need any kind of life insurance or long-term care insurance, that you'll have plenty of money to what he calls self-insure, which is ridiculous when you get into retirement planning because most people don't have the money to do that type of thing. But now all of a sudden, he's suggesting that we buy long-term care insurance in case we're in a nursing home 20 years. Well, let's take a look at an article on this. Now, there's tons of research and articles done on this very subject of how long does the normal person, in terms of period of time, stay in a nursing home, and it sure ain't 20 years. This particular article has some good information. One of the things I noticed is most people don't stay any more than about 14 months. 65% of people died within the first year of the nursing home admission, and 53% died within 6 months. So what in the world is this financial entertainer telling this person to go out and buy long-term care insurance, needing it for 20 years, which again would be very expensive to purchase? Well, let's kind of go over to the whiteboard. I took the liberty of having my favorite son-in-law run some illustrations on this very point. What Trey did was he took these two 60-year-olds, okay, and imagined he bought a decent long-term care policy that would be payable for as much as 5 years, seeing as though the average stay is about 14 months. The premium was over $4,000 a year, and folks, that premium could go up. So two 60-year-olds, let's say the average life expectancy, let's just magically say they both died 80, and here's the point. Let's say neither of them ever goes into a nursing home. This is very much what could happen. A lot of people don't go in. I know my mother-in-law passed away a couple of years ago. She had a long-term care policy forever. Now again, we sell long-term care insurance. We'd be happy to sell you a policy and make a commission, but you've got to analyze it like this. You just can't have a blanket statement saying, yeah, run out and buy long-term care. So what I did, assuming an opportunity cost of around 8%, if you didn't ever use the insurance and assuming the premium didn't go up, at the end of that 20 years, there would be roughly $120,000 of premium and lost interest, depending on what you made on your money, spent with nothing in return. So now you might say, well, Tony, but I would want some protection, or gosh, if I did go in for even a couple of months, I want some protection to even replace assets for my family. Well, why wouldn't you instead do this if you're going to buy any kind of insurance coverage? What we did, I had Trey go in, and instead we divided this up, roughly $2,200 each, okay, husband and wife, and instead of buying long-term care insurance, we bought a permanent life insurance contract, and yes, we do these too. And in this example, why did we do this? Because we know the people are going to die. That is a fact, folks. You know, you've been buying life insurance all your life and spending all this money, and now somebody's telling you ought to buy long-term care, which again, you might, but that's not a blanket statement anybody should follow. That's just goofy advice. Because what you might want to do, here would be another option, and this is what we do when we're meeting with people. We look at that, we determine the cost of the long-term care if you don't need it. Then we come down here and we say, wait a minute, if both of you died in 20 years, you have the same amount of premium, right? If you use the opportunity cost, like examples, we're just using this example, but instead of losing it all, knowing that both of you will die, the family or somebody's going to get $200,000 tax-free. So at least worst case scenario in this example of life expectancy, we're going to make about $80,000 tax-free on the transaction versus possibly losing $120,000. So folks, if you're sitting there saying, Tony, yeah, you're right. I don't have anybody that knows how to analyze this stuff. I've got all kinds of financial decisions weighing on me, and I would like a one source to answer those questions and make sure all this goofy advice actually fits my situation. How do I make sure, Tony, that you have the credentials, the experience, and the know-how to do that? Well, that's easy. Just go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. All those credentials are listed. You can also download Form ADV Part 2. A fiduciary is supposed to provide you that form, and then you can check it out for yourself. And then best of all, we can just have a quick meeting to meet in person to see how we can help you provide for your future by providing a free retirement game plan. Take advantage of that now. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Well, does the Bible have anything to say about names and changing our identity? Actually, it does. Some really interesting stuff. Very encouraging as we approach the 21st century. I got to get me a cup of coffee for this one. Be right back. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a pension buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today.
Worried about running out of money in retirement? Then download Mailbox Money for Life from best-selling author and retirement planning specialist Tony Walker. Just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Who can you trust? It's one of the most important decisions you'll have to make. Question is, are you ready? Well, we're here to help at Tony Walker Financial. You know, we care more about you than we do your money, and we have over 2,000 happy clients and an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau to prove it. Rolling over a 401k, confused about Social Security, maybe you're afraid of running out of money. Learn how to use and enjoy and protect your hard-earned money. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started. You know, in an effort to create a new identity, one of the things many entertainers do is change their names. Our featured musician earlier in the show was originally known as Frank James Nicholas. That's an Italian name. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, but he changed his name to his stage name of just Frank Nichols. Now, back in the early 80s, while attending Western Kentucky University and majoring in broadcasting, I was desperately trying to find work related to my field and ran into a fellow student by the name of Brian Foote, who had posted a job opening from a local radio station from where he was working and getting ready to move on. Well, I got a chance to hear Brian on the air, and all of a sudden I hear him refer to himself as Brian James. And I thought, even a young radio DJ can get into the name-changing act. Well, guess what? God is in the act of changing names too. Check this out. John 1:42, where Jesus first meets a man by the name of Simon who decides to follow Jesus. Jesus, who senses this, immediately changes Simon's name to Cephas, which translated means Peter. Now, why would Jesus do that? Because Jesus knew that the old name of Peter, which was Simon, represented the old self of Peter, and that's not who Jesus wanted following him. You see, my friend, if you've made a decision to follow him, you're not the same person you were. And in order to get your former pride out of the way and serve him and your fellow man, you got to take on a new identity, and that's where God steps into the act. And while you don't have to literally change your name, fortunately, your name now is permanently written in his book, and that's a fact. You know, you're no longer your own when you start following God. Paul says this in Galatians 2:20. He says, I've been crucified with Christ, and it is no longer I that live, but he that lives in me. Paul goes on to say, the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and delivered himself up for me. I don't know about you, but to know that the Son of God is taking care of me both here, now on earth, and in the future, I think I'd rather leave the old Tony behind and instead take on this new identity, just like Peter and Paul. My hope is you'll take God up on this offer to change you as well. Well, how about you? You may be sitting there trying to figure out your new identity when it comes to this thing called retirement. You know, maybe you've been working 30, 40 years, and that's been your identity. And now all of a sudden, you're about to call it quits or cut back on work and begin what I call the second half of life, having no clue what's really in store, but hopefully making sure you don't run out of money. Well, my question is, who in the world has the experience and the credentials to help you pull that off? My suggestion, whether you already have an advisor, maybe you got a current 401k, or you're looking for someone with the credentials and experience to navigate the new world you're getting ready to enter, why not consider us? You know, for the past 36 years, I've committed my life's work to helping savers worry less about money, and I want to help you too. To show you how we work and how we get paid and how we use our proprietary software to help so many savers in retirement, why don't you log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Take advantage of this offer to talk to me at no cost or obligation, either by phone or in person. If we decide to meet in person, I'll be happy to meet you at either our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. Let me help you take the goofiness out of the financial world and show you how one-stop shopping, having everything under one roof with Tony Walker Financial, will help you create a worry-free retirement. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's program. I've enjoyed being here with you. Next week's show, we are going to talk a little bit about this everything under one roof. Pretty interesting concept, and why at Tony Walker Financial, we've got the proof to pull it off for you and your family. But between now and then, you remember, if all else fails, you be worry-free. Make it a good one.
Let's go out with something really hot for these folks. A big hit out of '77. A Star Wars.